talk about sponsorship. First of all, some sponsors don't know that they're doing it, and some of the proteges don't know that they have it. So the first thing is to explain the differences between mentor and sponsor so that everybody at least has a picture and give them some examples. My favorite example is Sarah Palin, who was her sponsor. John McCain. Failed, not because they weren't elected, because they both failed as a sponsor and as a protege, quite frankly. So, so I always give them examples so they can visually, Elena Kagan, Barack Obama was her sponsor because he knew her from the University of Chicago. And so I do that. And then I have some men in the organization, and most sponsors are men because the sponsor has to have influence and power and be at the leadership table, be able to influence decisions. And there's one of our faculty members in particular who has sponsored a lot of women. And so I do kind of the didactic, and then I have him talk about what he's looking for in a protege. And explain to them what they have to do, from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And that's been very effective, very effective. We're doing some work across the UT system. We did a sponsorship workshop for all 15 components last January, where we had matched proteges and sponsors came in for a 2-day workshop on this. So yes, I agree with you. And the issue is that women, they're not visible. They're reluctant to make themselves visible, and this goes to the confidence, et cetera. And also, women and minorities walk a very fine line in terms of acceptable behavior. And so we, as being senior, can understand that and help them navigate that kind of very narrow, treacherous path. I always use the PowerPoint of the Walensky who was crossed between the Cobb Towers and the University of Chicago, in Chicago last year or the year before. It was in December, and he crossed over, and here's a high wire. It's a very dangerous, risky thing, and it's the same thing. So trying to help them navigate through that, and so that they are visible, but in a favorable way, not an unfavorable way. But I agree with you. I think it really takes sponsorship, but I think it's not only for leadership. I think you can be a sponsor. You need sponsorship throughout a career, including as associate professor, and that's where you come in with an associate professor who, and an example is one of my former graduate students, now an associate professor at McGill, and she was a reviewer for this professional journal, from our professional society. And she came to me at one of the meetings a few years ago and said, Liz, she said, I've asked to be an associate editor, and I can't, and nobody's paying attention to me. And so I'm a past president. I was also a secretary-treasurer. So I've got chips in the organization. I've got chips in the organization. So I took her over to the journal booth, and the editor happened to be there. And I introduced her, and I said, Tina wants to be, she's been asking to be an associate editor. John, meet Tina, Tina, meet John, and I just gave her, kind of, blessed her, if you will, and said, she's my former student. She wants to be associate editor. She was associate editor for next year. That sponsorship, I stuck my neck out for her, but I knew she would do the job well. So we can, and internal committees. That's the other place where I, kind of, it's like chess. It's like playing chess. Moving people along, and identifying, a person's strengths, and then making a recommendation, that they be placed on this committee. So I agree with you about sponsorship. It's very important.